Okay, so let's talk about 2026, because right now, the world is on a knife's edge. We're seeing a massive naval standoff that's choking the world's oil supply, and at the same time, a new kind of paper warfare happening in the high Himalayas. You know, the old rules of global security, they're being completely rewritten as we speak. What happens in these next few months? Well, it could define the entire decade. So let's break down what's really going on here.
This was our best and final offer. That's it. With just those few words, years of careful diplomacy just went up in smoke. Peace talks between the US and Iran collapsed, and that immediately triggered a full-scale naval blockade. And get this, at the exact same time, thousands of miles away, China is literally redrawing maps to claim its neighbor's territory. We're also seeing a new breed of terrorist, one that's emerging from the corporate world. And believe it or not, a bizarre ultimatum in Africa is threatening to ignite a whole new kind of conflict. Look, these aren't just random, isolated incidents. They're all tremors, signaling a much, much bigger earthquake in the global order.
And we're going to cover all of it. Now, you'll really want to stay till the end because some shocking things I am going to reveal in this explainer. I'm talking about a whole new corporate strategy for terrorism that's a complete game changer for intelligence agencies around the world. We're going to unpack exactly how it works. Okay, let's get back to it.
So, first, let's dive into the big state-on-state conflicts. These are the two major flashpoints that are pushing the entire world right to the brink.
21 hours. That's how long negotiators were locked in a room in Islamabad before the whole thing fell apart. Iran walked away, citing a deep, historical lack of trust. The American response from President Trump was immediate and incredibly severe. A full naval blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Now you have to understand, this isn't just some military move, it's a chokehold on the entire global economy. Almost 20% of the world's oil supply has to pass through that tiny channel. The message couldn't be clearer. Nothing gets through without US approval.
But right in the middle of this high-stakes standoff, something pretty remarkable happened. An Indian-flagged ship, the Vikram, sailed right through the blockade, totally untouched. I mean, this is a masterclass in modern diplomacy. For decades, India has been building this policy it calls strategic autonomy, basically meaning it stays on good terms with Washington while also keeping the lines open with Tehran. And this single moment, this ship sailing through, it just brilliantly shows that policy in action. It proves how a middle power can navigate these geopolitical red zones, even when the superpowers are on a collision course.
At the same time, over in the Himalayas, China is waging a totally different kind of war. It's a war on paper. They're just creating new administrative districts, like one called Sunling, in territory that everyone else recognizes belongs to someone else. They're just making up new names for towns and mountains in India's state of Arunachal Pradesh. Think of it like this. It's like if you renamed your neighbor's backyard on a new map and then filed it with the city, right? You're trying to create a fake legal reason to take it over later. That's exactly what cartographic aggression is, and it's China's patient long-term play to normalize its claims on territory.
So India's public response was pretty blunt. Inventing names does not alter reality. But while this war of words is going on, the creation of that Sunling district is a much bigger deal. It's not just a name on a map, it signals a permanent military and administrative presence right on a critical border point. It's a concrete step, and it really solidifies that strategic alliance between China and Pakistan against India. So you have words versus deeds, maps versus military bases.
So you've got these escalating threats on two very different fronts. The question is, how is India responding? Well, it's with its own two-pronged strategy. On one hand, deploying some seriously cutting-edge tech for surveillance, and on the other, flexing some good old-fashioned diplomatic and military muscle. And the star of this new defense strategy is the MQ-9B Predator drone. Now, these are not your average drones. These things can stay in the air for over 35 hours straight, flying way up at 40,000 feet, giving this constant, unblinking eye over huge areas of land and sea. I mean, this fundamentally changes the game. It lets India see everything happening on its borders 24/7, and that takes away the element of surprise from any potential enemy. And they're being divided up strategically. So, the Navy gets the lion's share, 15 of the Sea Guardian variant, to keep a close watch on the massive Indian Ocean, tracking everything from pirate ships to nuclear subs. The Army and the Air Force each get 8 of the Sky Guardians to monitor those tense, high-altitude borders with Pakistan and China. But this deal isn't just about buying drones, it's about building a whole domestic industry. India is set to become a regional hub for maintaining and repairing these things, which is a huge step towards strategic independence.
But look, technology is only half the battle, right? On the ground, India is busy strengthening its alliances in really critical regions. As we speak, a group of Indian soldiers is in Uzbekistan for joint military exercises. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, because Central Asia is the strategic heartland of Eurasia. It's a region where all the global powers are trying to gain influence. For India, having strong partners there is absolutely crucial for stability and security.
And this is not just some photo op. During this exercise called dissect, Indian troops are sharing decades of hard-won expertise in counterinsurgency. And they're practicing in terrain that almost perfectly mirrors their own northern borders. By building this seamless operational understanding with the Uzbek army, India is skillfully blending hard security with the soft power of diplomacy. You're building trust, one joint patrol at a time.
But as we've been saying, the biggest threats in 2026 might not even come from powerful nations or big armies. No, they might come from some very unexpected places, like a corporate boardroom, or maybe from the unpredictable whim of a single, powerful leader.
So, forget the old stereotype, the uneducated, easily manipulated extremist. According to intelligence agencies, that model is basically obsolete. The new face of cross-border terror, sponsored by groups like Pakistan's ISI, has a master of business administration. They are educated, they are tech-savvy, and they run their deadly operations like a Silicon Valley startup.
Just take a look at this recently busted Babur Khalsa International module. It was structured exactly like a modern company. You had an MBA graduate, Atul Rathi, acting as the logistics manager, basically running the weapons supply chain. A tech grad, Manpreet Singh, was the de facto CTO, handling all the encrypted communications and digital financing. They even outsourced their surveillance work, hiring local wallpaper workers to install CCTV cameras that were then monitored in real time by handlers in Europe. This is not a traditional terror cell, it's a decentralized global enterprise, and that makes it incredibly difficult to stop.
And if these corporate terrorists weren't enough to deal with, there's one more wild card in this new security landscape: just sheer jaw-dropping unpredictability. Over in the Mediterranean, Turkey's president is threatening war with Israel, comparing its prime minister to Hitler. I mean, that's dangerously inflammatory talk that could ignite the entire region. And just when you think things can't get any stranger, you look over to East Africa, and things get even weirder.
Get this, the head of the Ugandan army has given Turkey a 30-day ultimatum. And his demands? A $1 billion as a, quote, security dividend, and Turkey's most beautiful woman as his bride. I know, it sounds like something out of a bad movie, but it is a very real diplomatic incident, and it's a perfect example of a dangerous new trend: personalist diplomacy, where the bizarre, unchecked whims of one powerful person can actually trigger a genuine international crisis.
So, what does this all mean when we put it together? From naval blockades and border disputes to corporate terrorists and just bizarre ultimatums, what we're seeing is a fundamental, structural shift in global security. The rules are changing.
The really crucial takeaway here is that the old playbooks for how to handle conflict are being thrown right out the window. The old rules of war are obsolete. While nations like India are spending billions to prepare for traditional state-on-state conflicts with advanced weapons, they're also being forced to adapt to a totally new kind of enemy, one that's smarter, more agile, globally distributed, and just utterly, dangerously unpredictable.
So, as the rules of global conflict are literally being rewritten right before our eyes, the real question isn't just about which nations are going to survive, it's about which ones are going to thrive. In this new era of deep uncertainty, the future really belongs to the adaptable, the resilient, and the creative. The only question left is, who will they be?
So what do you think? Is the U.S. naval blockade a necessary show of strength, or is it a reckless gamble that could just backfire spectacularly? And what about this rise of the corporate terrorist? Is this the future of asymmetric warfare? I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this down in the comments. And if you want to stay ahead of these critical global shifts, make sure to subscribe. We'll be tracking all of it.